Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, the show that is part of the Simply Luxurious Life online destination, cultivating true contentment, the art of living a life of quality over quantity. Visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, at our simplified URL, tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com to find the show notes for each podcast episode, as well as much more weekly content to elevate your everyday and deepen your contentment. From a Monday motivational post, recipes, videos of the cooking show series, style and decor inspiration, French and British inspired content, and readers' favorite regular weekly post, This and That, which is posted each Friday morning. Now to today's episode. Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Abels. And whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 373rd episode of The Simple Sophisticate. And I'm coming to you from a very snowy Bend, Oregon. We're just stepping out of the Arctic cold spell. We woke up to 6 degrees, or I think it was a little less than that, but 6 degrees Fahrenheit. But from now on, we are going to be jumping up into the 30s, and to say I am tickled is an understatement. But we thoroughly enjoyed the snow and drew a lot of inspiration from all the lessons that Mother Nature was teaching us. What beauty, what absolute beauty. You can see some photographs on my Instagram page for the blog, as well as my garden Instagram page. One photograph my neighbor captured of a bird, a goldfinch in my cherry tree that was all frosted over. It's just stunning. Anyway, that is what's going on here at the moment. I'm looking out at a blue sky that's got a few high clouds, but it's starting to slowly melt the snow, and it is the epitomization of winter right now, the beauty and the reason we live in Bend for the winter months, that is. But we need to talk about our subject today. We are continuing on in January with posts that will nurture your energy, your determination to bring to fruition your intention for this new year, that is 2024. In episode 272, one of the most popular podcast episodes over the past 12 months, we talked about rituals and the importance of rituals when it comes to nourishing ourselves so that we can then continue in our everydays to do or make the change we wish to make. So I encourage you to tune into that if you haven't already tuned into it. And now we're going to talk about, in today's episode, how to nourish our creative being. And this can be any creative aspect within you. You do not have to be someone who's a typical, definition of a creative, say an artist or a painter or a decorator. All of us have creativity within us. It's where we get our ideas. It's where we get our solutions. It's where we come up with how to live our best lives. And we're going to talk about how to cultivate an artistic hearth and home and talk about what that means. Because again, when we nourish ourselves in our everydays, where we work, where we live, where we play, it can't help but then exude from us and not only energize us to make the changes that are going to require temporary more energy, but also keep us excited and motivated to continue to make the habit something that becomes ingrained in our abilities, so we don't have to think about it, and to eventually reach where we'd like to arrive. All right. I'm going to share with you 10 different ways to create this artistic hearth and home throughout today's episode. And of course, we will end with a petit plaisir. And this episode's petit plaisir is a film that will, I feel, be a wonderful punctuation point to provide the inspiration and motivation to keep on trying. If this is something, whatever your intention, goal, resolution, desire, hope, whatever it is you have as you stepped into this new year, this film is going to remind you that you can do it if you truly, genuinely want it. If it's sincerely something within you and you want it, you can make it happen. And I have the perfect film for just that. But I'll get to that at the end of today's episode. Let's dive in to our topic today. I want to begin with the guiding quote that perked or brought my attention to this concept of an artistic hearth and home. It's from a book titled Art and Fear, written by David Bayles and Ted Orland. Here it is. Part of art making is living your life in such a way that your work gets done over and over. And that means, among other things, finding a host of practices that are just plain useful, a life lived within productive patterns. The life of a productive artist becomes filled with useful conventions and practical methods. And in truly happy moments, those artistic gestures move beyond simple procedure and acquire an inherent aesthetic all their own. They are your artistic hearth and home. Okay, so we have this concept as defined by these two authors, Art and Fear, a book I highly recommend, by the way. And so it's in these unforced or unexpected moments that ideas, solutions, and connections appear at the forefront of our mind, providing a sense of relief, exhilaration, and maybe celebration as well. We may never thought that such ahas could be possible. Such wondrous moments indeed do seem to the onlooker and to the unaware individual to appear magically. And while there will always be an element involved beyond our control, the good news is we have far more contribution to ensuring such ahas happen and happen more frequently than we may have initially thought. The paradox of being a professional creative in any field that must produce work outside of a robotic construct. So this stretches well beyond, as I was mentioning at the top of this episode, this stretches well beyond the traditional artist, although most certainly this need of creating an artistic hearth and home is essential to an artist of any medium. What we're talking about here is that the day and the life needs to have some sort of structure in order to create the freedom to discover and then to bring to being that which is discovered by the undistracted mind. From writing to parenting to teaching to engineering to designing, whether in clothing, decor, or in the graphic arts, and even to leading or managing people in any career field, creativity, remaining open to receiving the ideas that wish to be discovered, is present and powerful. And it is up to each of us to nurture a hearth and home, an artistic hearth and home, for our mind to discover what is available on a regular basis, because it can be. And as we continue to move through these first few weeks of a new year, this year being 2024, our intentions remain clear. We're only 3 weeks in so far, right? And all of our efforts, each small regular change of habit, each of them contribute to the bringing to fruition the change or outcome we seek. Most importantly, we must enjoy the journey in order to remain upon it, which is why I wanted to bring today's episode to you. When we thoughtfully and with intention curate our sanctuary, wherever it is that we create on a regular basis, it may be in our home, it may be in a studio, it may be in an office that we drive to every day, it may be outside, wherever our artistic space is, or we have to go and create with expectation on a regular basis. That is what we're talking about today. For me, it is in my home. So that's going to be a lot of my examples, but always keep in mind wherever your artistic hearth and home resides is where you are creating on a regular basis. And so I'll say this again: when we thoughtfully and with intention curate our sanctuary to be an artistic hearth and home, we not only provide security and safety for ourselves to reside throughout our days and in between our trips to work and life outside of the home or that studio, we also create warmth, which encourages us to grow, expand, and evolve in ways we have never been, but now know is the next best step, the step that keeps niggling at us to let be and to stop holding back out of fear and doubt. So how do we go about cultivating an artistic hearth and home? Let's get into my list of 10 ways to do just that. Number 1, create an enriching environment. Authors of Your Brain on Art, Susan Magsman and Ivy Ross, and that was a book that I selected as a petit plaisir for episode 371. They share research that reveals a more enriched environment contributes to better neural connections. Where we live, work, and play contribute a vital importance to the quality of life we live, and thus the ideas and discoveries, connections, and ahas that do or do not cross our path. From continuing to practice in your musical field of preference to what you physically surround yourself with, ensuring that it provides the nutrition and support for the life you wish to live. All of that and everything in between, which we'll talk a lot about throughout today's episode, will create, because you're doing it with intention, an enriched environment. So, for example, if you began taking music lessons on any instrument as a child, if you continue to practice regularly, even if this is not part of your artistic have-tos, getting back on that horse, continuing to practice this instrument will actually further increase synapses and gray matter in the brain as you age, which is all to the benefit of long-term good health and thus being able to make seemingly disparate connections, solving puzzles that arise in everyday life and coming up with new ideas and ahas. As far as decorating and the decor of your space, while we will talk a little bit more about this in point number 6 later on today, begin with the food you have available to eat, literally what nourishes your body, knowing why you have the food you have, as well as making sure you have a quiet and calm space so you can relax both your mind and body when you are in your artistic hearth and home. Further and more expansively, engagement in any art form or arts education has been found in multiple studies to be associated with, quote, improved cognition, social, and behavioral outcomes in individuals across the lifespan in early childhood, in adolescence, and young adulthood, and in later years. Sourced from Your Brain on Art. When it comes to the auditory environment of your sanctuary or artistic space, what is it? Does it clutter and depress or uplift and soothe? Does it exacerbate or inspire? Does it frustrate or delight? From the music we play, the volume of the television when we watch, and what we watch. Do you watch ads? Why? Turn them off, as we discussed in a post that kicked off the new year on January 1st. As well as the sounds your home or your wherever your atelier or your studio is. What sounds does the building make? Does it make sounds at all? Or is everything running and functioning as it should? So caring for that space, being preventative, and then also taking care of things that need to be fixed so that you're not worried about anything but creating. These are fundamentals, but they are the foundation of creating an enriched environment. And the behavior and respect. And if you are working in a space with other people, so you have either colleagues or inhabitants that you share the space with, what is the behavior of interaction with them? Is there respect? How do we or you speak to each other? Ultimately, how you interact with the people that are in your space is immensely powerful in the quality of calm and rejuvenation we either feel or do not feel. So be thoughtful about the boundaries you set. Who can enter your space, what is accepted, but also how you communicate these boundaries and how we listen to others when they communicate their boundaries with us. So the first step of cultivating an artistic hearth and home is to make sure that it is an enriching environment that is continually and always supporting our journey, not distracting us from it. Number 2, instill a regular practice of gratitude into your days. Quote, flourishing is about living an authentic and full life. It's feeling present and alive by noticing and appreciating what you already have around you. From the book, Your Brain on Art. When we practice extending gratitude as an everyday habit, we gradually but permanently we see the quality of our entire lives change. We become less desirous and more grounded in awareness. Our wanting less reflects our ability to be responsive rather than reactive, as we are thinking for ourselves instead of following or feeling we are less than if we don't have, and then insert any latest advertised or sponsored item, activity, behavior, etc. Gratitude shifts how we view the world that we find ourselves in at every moment, which that in and of itself is the practice of being present. And when we hold ourselves in the present moment, we step outside of our myopic perspective of how we previously viewed the world and begin to realize so much more. and often that so much more is amazingly great. From your body working as you want it to, warmth in your house on a cold winter's day, money to pay the bills with, fresh food from the market, the list really could be endless of all the things you can be grateful for in any given day. The practice of gratitude will change everything if you choose to see this simple tool as worth your investment of conscious effort. And as it pertains to cultivating an artistic hearth and home, we free ourselves from feeling we do not have enough or that we are not enough and realize we have everything we need. This sets our mind free and we explore, wonder, and then create. So it's not necessarily a physical thing that we're adding to our artistic hearth and home, but rather a behavior that then fosters the ability to free up our minds so that we can regularly create what we have to and want to. That's number 2. Number 3, step out amongst nature every day. Quote from Frank Lloyd Wright, as cited in Your Brain on Art. I go to nature every day for inspiration in the day's work. I follow in building the principles which nature has used in its domain. End quote. When we step out amongst Mother Nature throughout the seasons, our senses become enlivened, quote, through the uses of color, shape, smell, pattern, touch, and sight, end quote. We continue to carry this knowledge and the awareness of how we felt, what we saw, how the air tasted, etc., with us when we return back inside to work or complete a project. And while we don't know when it will help us make a discovery, that knowledge, especially when regularly experienced, remains with us. Ceramicist Frances Palmer shared her daily routine in her book Life in the Studio, and one of the first things she does each day, well before most of the world has awoken, is to step out into her garden in Connecticut to capture photos for inspiration, but also just to be outside amongst the flowers and Mother Nature. Providing nourishment each time, she then steps back inside for breakfast and then to begin working in her studio. Which brings me to the topic of the concept of awe. A quote from a recently released book titled Awe, The New Science of Everyday Wonder and How It Can Transform Your Life by Dr. Keltner. Quote, awe is embedded in our DNA. We are literally hardwired for it, end quote. And one of the best places to discover moments of awe is nature. Keltner goes on and says, quote, nature is the wellspring of so much of our awe, and human beings have been aspiring to bring this feeling into the built environment, meaning anything that is human-made, since the earliest drawings decorated the walls of our caves. So here's what we need to try to do. Figure out a regular routine in which you will step out into nature. This may be daily or weekly, but make it often. For me, as I have shared before, it is my regular morning walk with the pups that immediately wakes up my brain, settles it from worrying or wondering about anything, and keeps me in the present moment so that when I return to the office, whatever the task is that I have to set my mind to complete, it can do so without distraction. So number 3 is step out amongst nature every day, or as often and as regularly as possible. Number 4, reduce the number of daily to-dos. Why, you might be asking? In order to create mental space, we must be cognizant of how that same space becomes cluttered. And often we are the director of enabling that clutter to happen. And we think this is normal. And I put normal in air quotes. The skill of saying no to a schedule you have kept for years that seemed normal, regular, whatever acceptable adjective you want to use, so normalize your decisions. But if you need to make changes in order to cultivate the artistic hearth and home you need, it often begins with the decider, and that is you, or us, I should say. On my daily must-dos, I will often only have 2 significant items I need to complete to ensure my jobs of expectation are done and I feel productive at the end of the day. The tasks may take some time, such as producing a podcast episode, easily 4, sometimes 5 hours to do, but there will usually only be one other have to along with it, such as going for my weekly grocery run, that I will need to do following the task. By consciously planning my days so that they are not overbooked, I give my mind space to regularly and consistently come up with creative content. And I also have a practice of capturing those ideas because often the ideas that arise will not be ones that I'm going to use for tomorrow's content. They're often for next week's content or next year's even. But likely down the road. And so I have to have a system where I can capture those. By both having the mental space to discover these ideas paired with a system for easily capturing them so I can refer to them later and know where they are saved, I have created space for creativity to be part of my regular routine. So remain open and fully present to discover moments of awe by having only a couple of big must-dos in each day. Here's another quote from the book, Your Brain on Art, in discussion with the author, Dagner Keltner. They write, awe heightens your curiosity and creativity, and it has the capacity to make you more generous, tender, empathetic, and hopeful. All the more reason to give our minds space throughout the day to see, to experience what we cannot plan for but must be present for when it arrives. So that's number 4, reduce the number of daily to-dos. Number 5, heed your curiosity and nourish it. Pick up that book, watch that documentary, visit that store, listen to that lecture, travel to that destination, and take that tour or see with your own eyes whatever it is that has your mind filled with wonder, which is urging you to learn more about. Part of creating an artistic hearth and home is leaving space for discovery or places in your home for you to discover them. For me, permitting myself to buy or check out books that grab my curiosity leads me to wanting to create cozy reading snugs in my home so that I will linger longer. And even when I think I may be too busy, these snugs, I have one by the fireplace in the winter, in the living room by the picture window during warmer months, and in my office next to the bookshelf for easy access and encouragement to take a break from looking at the computer screen. They beckon me to sit down and stay a while because they are comfortable and ideally situated for a cuppa on the small tea tables that sit beside each of these snugs with deeply stuffed chair cushions. All I have to do is grab that book of interest at the particular moment and plop down. Wherever your curiosity leads you, whatever nourishes your curiosity, for me it comes from books, but many other sources as well. Investing in these sources is just that, an investment, not a luxury. Gradually begin to cultivate a space in your home or your studio or your atelier or wherever it is you create or your garden so that it will engage your curiosity, and make sure that it's near irresistible to not step into and stay for a while or for a long while. So ultimately, not only are you making sure, yep, I'm going to honor my curiosity, but you're creating areas that you will visually see that will be enticing for you to then engage with that curiosity, whatever it is. Yes, you do need to travel and see things that are outside of your studio, your home, your atelier, your office, whatever. But even in your hearth and home of your artistic space, create areas that will feed your curiosity, that you can regularly gain inspiration, get new ideas, see things from a different perspective. So that could be from watching something, could be from reading something, listening to something. Maybe you listen to other podcasts, and you get ideas from them, or anything where you're getting to see a different perspective on things. So that's number 5. Heed your curiosity and nourish it within your hearth and home. All right. So those are the first 5 ways to nourish your artistic hearth and home. When we come back, we're going to talk more literally about how you can cultivate this space that you physically find yourself in, and I'll be giving you all sorts of ideas on what that might look like and why to do so. All right, I have 2 sponsors I'd like to introduce you to, and then I'll be back with the remaining 5 on the list. We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Just imagine working with a company that wants you to find quality candidates, not just any candidates. And that's exactly what my business, when I'm looking for contractors for different web design, for HTML coding, I want people who are going to do well in the field that I'm searching for. And that's what Indeed provides. While leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. As a Simple Sophisticate listener, you will get a $75 sponsored job credit to give your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/simple. So just go to Indeed.com/simple right now and support the Simple Sophisticate podcast by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. That's Indeed.com/simple. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Bombas. Did you know socks, tees, and underwear are the 3 most requested clothing items in homeless shelters? Bombas knows, and they're doing something about it, making ridiculously comfortable versions of all 3 and donating one for every item sold. With all the clothing brands out there, it's nice to find some basics that don't just feel good, but do good too. To date, Bombas' one purchased equals one donated commitment has helped customers donate over 100 million essential clothing items to people facing homelessness. That's a lot of good done by people just buying the Bombas they wear every day. And it really comes down to the details. Once you try Bombas, you'll know why so many people have purchased and donated. The comfort geniuses at Bombas work tirelessly to make your everyday things your favorite things, whether that's an arch-supporting sock that feels like it was sculpted for your foot, a buttery soft tee with no itchy tag, or underwear that feels like nothing while supporting everything. And if you have a fitness resolution, Bombas athletic socks are precision engineered for being active with sweat-wicking power, impact cushioning, blister defense, and no annoying toe seams to get between you and your goals. But maybe you're more of the stay-at-home type. Hey, with how early it gets dark these days, who isn't? Bombas gets it, and their cozy game is on another level. Their winter socks are toasty warm and incredibly pillowy. And their slippers, let's just say, if you put these on, you might have to cancel your plans. I personally wear Bombas every single day, and in the winter, their calf socks are the socks I pull on when we go outside in the frigid weather, making sure my toes and feet stay warm no matter how cold it gets, as well as staying exactly where I put them. So are you ready to get comfy and give back? Head over to bombas.com/sophisticate and use the promo code sophisticate for 20% off your first purchase. That's Bombas, BOMBAS.com/sophisticate and use code sophisticate at checkout. Let's get right back into our list. Number 6, welcome Mother Nature into your home, literally and artistically. Quote, from simple elements like houseplants or botanical designs on wallpaper to the structural choices that frame views of nature via windows, when we come into contact with plants and vegetation with water and other natural elements, it immediately reduces adrenaline, blood pressure, and heart rate. End quote. From Your Brain on Art. One of the simplest ways to welcome Mother Nature into your home is to let natural light into your sanctuary or your atelier or your studio, wherever your artistic hearth and home is. So you want to create and or furnish it in a way that is your preferred aesthetic, a way to live with a natural daily light that Mother Nature gives us. One of my morning routines that I look forward to each day involves opening all the curtains in my home. This both signifies the start of the day, but to myself, I'm also saying thank you. And not to myself, but I'm saying it either sometimes audibly, but consciously. I'm looking out the window, I'm opening it, saying hello to the day, saying thank you to Mother Nature. And I'm saying thank you for a variety of reasons. One, that I am alive and healthy to see and witness a new day, but also, whatever the weather may be, I imagine the gifts that that particular weather pattern will bring to us, whether the garden, the community, or how I will organize my day. And I'm humbled in that moment because I'm reminded I do not have control over the weather, but I can work with it to nourish the life that fuels me. And again, this is absolutely free, letting natural light in. But it also serves to teach us of the gifts Mother Nature provides if only we choose to see them as gifts. Here's a quote from Impressionist artist Camille Pissarro. Quote, "Happy are they who see beauty in modest surroundings where other people see nothing. Everything is beautiful. What matters is being able to interpret it." Interior decoration choices will also foster an enriched environment, what we spoke about in point number 1. And while they might take time to bring to fruition due to both finding what you realize will work best for you, but also fitting it into your budget and giving yourself time to save, rest assured, it is not a frivolous pursuit to create your sanctuary to be a space of beauty that involves touches of Mother Nature's inspiration. So number 6 is welcome Mother Nature into your home, literally and or artistically. Number 7, choose to engage and or visit in art or cultural events and activities. So in 2020, there was a study conducted by the University of London, and it involved tens of thousands of participants in the UK. And it revealed, quote, that people who participated in arts activities more than once a week or who attended cultural events at least once or twice per year had significantly higher life satisfaction than those who did not, end quote. And they worked through all the variables to make sure that those were all handled, to make sure that the results were across the board and to see if they were across the board regardless of different socioeconomic details and things like that. And this was consistent across all socioeconomic levels. And it is just as wonderful to note that, quote, people who engaged in the arts were found to have lower mental distress, better mental functioning, and improved quality of life, end quote. So consider this a tool, a regular tool in your toolbox of how you nourish your well-being and reduce or eliminate unnecessary stress as a preventative nature. Yes, you can definitely go to these events or partake in art activities following a stressful event, so to respond to something that you don't want to have happened. But why not engage willingly to enrich your life rather than improve your life? Without knowing what we have avoided that would have been unwanted, we are caring for ourselves well, freeing our mind to come up with creative discoveries that are waiting for us to find them. So, again, another practice of regular nourishment as preventative and creative medicine, not as a response to an unwanted situation. That's number 7. Choose to engage and or visit in art and cultural events and activities. Number 8, remember that beauty and the aesthetics that surround us is a necessity. This is a quote from The Well-Gardened Mind, which was written by Sue Stuart-Smith and published about 4 years ago in 2020. Quote, "When we encounter beauty, other considerations disappear. We attend to it with all our being. It takes us away from our humdrum thoughts, our chores, and our worries. Such an experience contains the reassurance that all is right with the world and also produces a heightened sense of belonging. Although the experience may be fleeting, beauty leaves a trace in the mind that survives its passing." End quote. Each one of us gravitates and therefore defines beauty as something unique to our life journey. Our tastes will be our own, and when we figure out what it is through trial and error, and also by reflecting upon places and situations that we felt in such a way that we then desire to create that particular feeling in our own sanctuary now, we inform the decisions we make as we customize our sanctuary. And I've written about this quite a bit through my own customization journey over the past 3.5 years, and I've linked to all those posts and episodes in point number 8. So if you want to explore those, you can look at the show notes and find that link. I think it's interesting to point out that a study that was led by Samir Zeki, a professor of neuroaesthetics at University College London, discovered that, quote, "our experience of different kinds of beauty, whether it be music, painting, or even mathematical equations, produce the same patterns of activity in parts of the brain associated with pleasure and romantic love," end quote. So when we remember what Sue Stuart-Smith shared in that quote, investing in our sanctuary's decor aesthetics is an investment in ourselves and the quality of our regular creative work. So remember, this is number 8, remember that beauty, the aesthetics that surround us, is a necessity. Number 9, eliminate the clutter. And I do mean eliminate, not just reorganizing and putting it away again. The theme of the first week here on the podcast, but also on the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, had to do with simplifying, kicking off with a post that I will share here in a minute. and I linked to it in the show notes. But in a handful of the items shared in this post is to nudge you to make sure that what you have you actually use, and then that you find a place for it so that your visual aesthetic is not cluttered, which would, if it is cluttered, distract your mind from being free. We need a free and open mind to create regularly. One that is at ease, knowing all systems in our lives and home are working as they should, so that we can explore and give space to ideas coming forth that we had never thought of before. By strengthening our synapses, as we mentioned earlier in the episode with reference to music, we can also strengthen our cognition in a variety of other ways outside of music, beginning with forever being a learner and welcoming temporary discomfort as we challenge ourselves to learn new skills. And this gives our mind the flexibility to stretch and explore and see if something else we hadn't thought of, it connects in a way we hadn't imagined. But when we think about it again from a different perspective, it actually works. And that is the beauty of having an open mind that has a lot of ideas that we have fed it over the years, over the weeks, over the months of feeding our curiosity. They're just sitting in our memory. And they're just waiting to be, tickled and brought forth and to consider it as a possibility to work with something else that may seem on the surface to be unrelated. So no, taking the time to declutter and situate your space is an investment in a nourishing artistic hearth and home. And to make sure that you aren't having to tend to this task regularly, you need to actually eliminate that extra and unnecessary stuff. That's why we have number 9 is eliminate the clutter, not just organize it. And the name of the post I referenced just a second ago is 20 Ways to Live Simply and Fully, How to Make Space for Your New Year's Intentions to Materialize. And that's linked under number 9 on today's list in the show notes. Last but not least, we want to select and stick with rituals that work well for our creative needs. In episode 372, so just the most recent one prior to this one, titled Simple Rituals to Enhance the Everyday and the 5 Characteristics of Simply Luxurious Rituals, I shared a handful of specific rituals that enhance my own daily creative work routine. It has taken time to polish and tweak, eliminate, and add before I eventually arrived at all of these, but the journey itself has been informative because I would observe how it affected my work, output, and creative ideas. The rituals we engage with will nourish us if we know ourselves well and stick to them. One of the reasons is simply they free up our mind. A reoccurring benefit is the liberating of our mind so that it isn't pressured into creating when it isn't able or ready to. And the beautiful gift of rituals is that they are tasks and habits we enjoy, with the byproduct of gifting us something we didn't know we were looking for, or at least didn't know we would find. So that's number 10. Select and stick with rituals that you engage in regularly throughout the workday process. And that's what will help you creatively create regularly and provide the output that is needed from you at your work. So it's important to point out that every moment that our mind is free isn't going to be full of a barrage of ideas, solutions, and discoveries. But when we make it a daily habit to clear space within our minds so that we can work and be free of energy depleting or thought monopolizing distractions, we will find more and more ideas come to us. And it is up to us to do something with them, whether to record them in a journal for later recollection and application, or putting them to use in the present moment. Either way, it is our regular approach to our daily routine that has been curated with intention, thus creating our artistic hearth and home that becomes the launch pad for regular creative output for our work and life. Now you can check out today's show notes at thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 373, and I'll be back with this week's Petit Plaisir. But first, I'd like to introduce you to 2 sponsors for today's episode. Imagine the softest sheets you've ever felt. Now imagine them getting even softer with every wash. That's a smart and worthwhile purchase. With Boll & Branch sheets, you can discover this new level of softness. In a recent customer survey, 96% said that Boll & Branch sheets get softer with every wash. And I can attest, having used them as well, they indeed do get softer every single time they are cared for. The sheets are made from the rarest 100% organic cotton in a buttery and breathable weave that gets softer and softer over time. And you can feel the difference with their 30-night worry-free guarantee. Having had the opportunity to use and sleep on Bull and Branch sheets, they indeed are high quality cotton breathable sheets that allow you to sleep well and get better with every use. Choose from 13 versatile colors in all sizes from twin up to California king, and they are made, most importantly, without toxins, free from synthetic pesticides, formaldehyde, and other harsh chemicals. Boll and Branch sheets fit the deepest of mattresses and are labeled with top and bottom tags, so it's easy to make your bed each time your sheets are cleaned and ready to be put back on. Boll and Branch offers a 30-night worry-free guarantee with free shipping and returns on all U.S. orders. So, as a simple, sophisticate listener, sleep better at night with the softest sheets from Boll and Branch. Get 15% off your first order when you use promo code SIMPLE at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLANDBRANCH.com, with promo code SIMPLE. Exclusions apply. See site for details. The Simple Sophisticate is also sponsored by Lumi. Want to start this year off fresh? And we mean really, really fresh? Lumi deodorant has you covered from the traditional place you would put your deodorant all the way to your toes. Yep, really. Lumi is a game-changing whole-body deodorant designed by an OB/GYN to work not only where we traditionally would use deodorant, but everywhere else we get odor. No matter where you use it, Lumi is clinically proven to block odor all day long thanks to its one-of-a-kind pH optimized formula, and they've got over 275,000 five-star reviews to show for it. Having used their product, I can share with you they absolutely does work the entire day, which is ultimately what the purpose of deodorant should be, right? You don't want to have to think about it. You want to go about your day, and that's exactly what Lumi does. Make the switch to Lumi and you'll unlock your freshest start ever. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for the Simple Sophisticate listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code SIMPLE at lumedeodorant.com. That's LUME deodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit lumedeodorant.com and use the promo code SIMPLE. This week's Petit Plaisir is one that I found myself tearing up when I watched it, but also being deeply inspired and motivated throughout the entire watching of it, as well as at the conclusion, and thinking about it for days afterwards. The film I'm speaking about and highly recommend is Naiad, the biopic about marathon swimmer Diana Naiad, who, after 4 attempts at the age of 62 to 64, finally swam 102 miles from Cuba to Key West, Florida in 2013. Now, I can remember as a teacher, I would teach current events every single morning. At the beginning of class, we would watch for 5 minutes and then discuss the who, what, when, where, and why of a couple of stories every single day, just to practice the fundamental critical thinking skills, and also stay in tune and aware of what was going on in the world. And I can remember when Diana Naiad made her first couple of attempts in that first year in 2011 that were unsuccessful. And I remember thinking, well, she's never going to be able to do this. She's already failed twice. And then the third time happened. And I was like, there's no way. I didn't say this out loud, but I am thinking it. And I have to say, when she finally completed the fourth swim on the 2nd of September, 2013, it was one of our stories. And I remember my kids and I watching it and thinking at the time, wow, what inspiration. That's amazing. How'd she do that? But at the same time thinking, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, I share that just so I have a feeling many of you too remember when this event actually happened. And this is what the film covers. From the beginning in 2011, when she decides to start training, or 2010, she starts to train, and then she makes her first attempt in 2011, and a handful of other, and the following 2 attempts after that, before she finally gets her 4th attempt. And the film was done with permission by the 2 main individuals, who are portrayed by Annette Bening, who plays or stars as Diana Nyad. And Annette Bening is 65 this year. When she was training, and she took an entire year to train with an Olympic swim coach, and they very rarely used any stunt doubles. She did all the swimming. She some days was swimming for 8 hours for the various takes they needed to take. She was someone who enjoyed swimming prior to the film, but when she took this on, she trained for an entire year before they actually filmed it. And there's a fantastic discussion with Annette Bening, Diana Nyad, and then Jodie Foster portrays Diana Nyad's close friend and swim coach, Bonnie Stoll. And so you have these 2 formidable actors, Annette Bening, who has been nominated 4 times for an Academy Award and won multiple other awards, SAG Awards, Golden Globes. And then you have Jodie Foster, who has won 2 Academy Awards. And these women knew each other before they took on the roles in this biopic, meaning Bening and Foster had met and knew Bonnie Stoll and Diana Nyad. They had met previously, prior to this film even being a thing of discussion. And there's a fantastic discussion for about 15 minutes, a roundtable discussion with these 4 women, that I highly recommend you listen to, either before or after. Maybe you've already seen this film. But one of the many things I appreciate about the discussion is they talk about how this is a film about friendship, specifically female friendship. Because it's important to point out, for those who may not know, and maybe some people who have made an assumption, that yes, that Bonnie Stoll and Diana Nyad are lesbians, but they are not in a relationship. They were friends their entire lives. They dated, as they say in the film, for a brief second, and it didn't work out. There was no way it was ever going to work. But they remained very close friends. They respected each other's journey. And as they describe it themselves, and Jodie Foster speaks to this in the conversation, that they are really both solo people, Bonnie and Diane. And they meet along their journey in various ways to support each other. They're very distinctly different in how they approach life, but they highly respect each other. And to give some perspective, if you've seen the film, maybe you knew this, maybe you didn't. Bonnie Stoll was a professional racquetball player through the 1980s. And she was so successful that at one point she was number 5 in the country for racquetball. And there's a scene in the film where they're playing ping pong, and Jodie Foster's character, who plays Bonnie Stoll's, now I know why you agreed to play ping pong with me. You're trying to get me to be your coach for this. And anyway, at that point, I didn't really understand why it was ping pong and why she was so good at it, but that's a good backstory that's important to note. Anyway, she becomes the coach, yes, but the ardent supporter and emotional support of Diana Nyad. That relationship throughout the entire film is inspiring. It is a reminder that we can be who we truly are, and there are people, if we are willing to be aware of our own neuroses, our weaknesses, but also strong enough to be who we are and our strengths, and put them forth and ask for what we want, but also let go when people say no, because there is, as you will watch in the film, a moment where they go their separate ways and they respect that the other individual has to do what they need to do, and they don't push, they don't manipulate, they genuinely respect each other. It's just beautifully acted. Along the way, there is wonderful acting done by Rhys Ifans, and you may remember him most famously, for most moviegoers, is from Notting Hill. He plays the not so great roommate of Hugh Grant. Anyway, he stars as the ship's navigator for this journey, John Bartlett, and he is just phenomenal in this role. So you have a team of 43 people, as Diana Nyad points out, that made this possible. And I think one of the many reasons I want to encourage people to watch this film beyond just, it's such a great female friendship movie. And as someone who was an athlete in high school and college, knowing what it takes to be prepared both physically and mentally, this just spoke to me throughout. Diana Nyad's fortitude and determination is just beyond inspiring. But what I appreciated about it was that you can't control when your success is going to happen. You can't control the sharks. You can't control the ocean. You can't control the weather, but you can educate yourself about the elements you can't control and therefore prepare yourself as best as you can. And that is the journey that this film takes you on. It's all about the swim. That's the central plot. It's all about the swim. And you have this friendship that is going to navigate how to make this swim successful. There's a beautiful moment where the coach, Jodie Foster, starring as Bonnie Stoll, they are just a handful of miles away from Key West. Their fourth swim. It's great weather. Physically, if she was just starting to swim on that moment, she would make it no problem. But at this point, obviously, she's swam almost 100 miles. She's exhausted. She's fatigued. She's hallucinating. Jodie Foster's character gets in the water with her and just treads water and just motivates and talks to her and tells her what she needs because she knows her as a person and as an athlete and what's going on in her mind. And that's the key part here too. Our success, we may physically be able to do something, but we have to strengthen our mind. Whatever it is you have set as your intention in 2024, your mind is an ally or a foe, and you need to educate yourself about your mind, which we've talked about multiple times here on the podcast, but also the blog. Once you understand how your mind works, you get out of your own way and you will reach the success that you seek. And that is part of the reason that Diana Nyad says that's the key piece that was missing. That's why I wasn't successful when I attempted this when I was 30 years old. Anyway, I'd like you to listen to the trailer for Nyad. It is on Netflix now. It has both actresses or actors have been nominated for their roles for the Golden Globes, for SAGs, and Critics' Choice for good reason. And no doubt they will be nominated for Academy Awards, which will be announced on the 23rd of January. Watching the trailer, I get teared up. There's just so many subplots and sub-storylines that if you were looking for motivation, this is the film to watch. It came out in October, late October 2023. If you know anything about Diana's childhood, as she was becoming the swimmer that she would become, they are paralleling that with her motivation to show that she's capable, to not be held back by others' limitations. And there is so much that on a personal level you are rooting for her, but also on a grander scale you're rooting for her too. And she did it. At 64 years of age, she swam over 100 miles, over 60 hours from Cuba to Key West without any assistance. And it's just, I hope you enjoy it. I'll put the trailer on the show notes, the simplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 373. And I think what you'll find everything I just spoke about, but also there's doses of humor throughout with regards to their interactions and their friendship. And I think just seeing these two amazing actors in these roles, they bring a worthwhile story to us, the viewer, who can now fully appreciate the behind the scenes of what it really took to do what Diana Nyad did. The film is Nyad, and you can find it on Netflix. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. I want to thank you very much for tuning in to our episode today, and may you go forward and start to, or continue to, or to more deeply savor your artistic hearth and home, because you are making progress. Every little step and effort makes a difference toward the intention and the outcome you are seeking. I'll be back on Wednesday, February 7th with a brand new episode to keep you motivated. Until then, bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, The Simply Luxurious Life, with the shortened URL tsll.co or thesimplyluxuriouslife.com. For more in-depth exploration of how to cultivate your own unique, simply luxurious life, pick up my new book, which became both a bestseller and #1 new release in France Travel, The Road to Le Papillon, Daily Meditations on True Contentment. Available in all 4 formats for your preferred reading or listening. My first book, titled Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, and my second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, are also available in each of the 4 formats. Readers can now join the more intimate The Simply Luxurious Life international community by becoming members of the blog, which offers the benefits of ad-free reading site-wide, unlimited access and exclusive access to content on the blog, such as the monthly A Cup of Moments with Shannon video chat, tours of my home Le Papillon, the monthly What Made Me Smile post, and monthly Ponderings post, as well as the exclusive opportunity to enter all of the giveaways during the annual French and British weeks. To stay caught up on all things Simply Luxurious, the podcast, blog post, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news, as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart each new month, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free monthly newsletter, arriving on the last day of each month in your inbox. There is also a weekly newsletter, which is also free, and arrives each Friday to keep you caught up on the recent weekly posts on the blog. Enjoy with a hot cuppa or cup of morning coffee, and stay in the know about all things simply luxurious. Look for 2 new episodes of this podcast on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of each month. And until next time, I'm your host, Shannon Abels. Thank you for tuning in. Bonne journée.